So I had this idea about a week ago, I think. I had this idea. I'm like, you know what? We should do a new segment on the show that is the card of the week.
Card of the week.
Because we talk about all these different card games, right? A lot, right? And so I'm like, let's just talk about a card from any of these games.
Any card game.
And just highlight it.
Yeah.
Right?
Any card game.
Any card game. So for the first one, I'm like...
The Ace of Spades. No.
Yeah.
Ace of Spades.
Ace of Spades. The Ace of Spades. That's a song, right?
Yeah, it is.
It's a song.
By Motorhead.
That's right. So the first one, I'm like, I got the perfect one. I got the perfect card, Jim.
What is it?
It's the Basic Island.
Basic Island.
Basic Island for Magic the Gathering. So if you're not a Magic player, okay, lands are the resource.
Yeah.
Lands are your resource in Magic the Gathering. And so lands as a card type have been a point of contention for many Magic players over the years. When I first got into it, I was used to digital card games, right? So your resources compiled every turn and you couldn't do anything about it.
Yep.
But when I found out, I'm like, wait, your resources have to be in the deck?
Inside the deck.
And then when I thought about it, I'm like, I guess that makes sense because it's a physical card game. Mm-hmm. So your resources, I understand. I got it. So many people don't like lands and the fact that they have to be in your deck. If you've ever heard the term mana screw or flooded, that comes from Magic.
Yeah.
Mana screw is you're missing your land drop, so you don't have resources. Because typically it's you want to get one land per turn, right? So would be your curve, right? Turn 1, you have 2 resources. Turn 2, 2, 3, and so on and so forth, right? Flooded is you have a hand full of lands, so you can't play the game, basically.
Yeah. You have a lot more lands than you are getting to turns, and you have no cards to be casting.
Correct. So lands as a mechanic is clearly outdated because Magic was the first TCG, the first card game. The first card game. I mean, there's been other card games, but you know what I mean. Okay, you know what I mean. So it's clearly an outdated system and mechanic. But I mean, it still functions and it still works. But it is a mechanic that has to be built around, and you have to figure out how to utilize it to its potential. Yeah. And honestly, that's a big topic of figuring out how many lands is the most optimum number to have in your decks. Right. So I wanted to talk about the Basic Island because if you're a Magic player, turn 1, if you see a Basic Island, if you're not playing that color...
It's the most powerful of the basic lands.
It is, because you're like, oh no. Oh no. You're playing blue. That means you're playing control, most likely.
That or tempo.
And
Dan loves tempo.
I hate mono blue tempo. So before teaming up with Jim and doing all this stuff for Hobbies and Happiness, for building our business here, I was streaming and playing Magic. Right. I had another channel. Channel's still live. It's not dead. I mean, it's dead from the standpoint of I haven't posted anything to the channel.
It's still a thing.
It's still a thing. You can go watch the videos. It's called the MTG Engineer. All right. So my videos are still there, and I had one video where it was Counterspell Tribal. Okay. Yeah. So it was a mono blue list. Okay. And I don't think we talked on this, but the color, so blue.
Before we continue, I just want to say I was surprised that I knew exactly what I said word for word in that quote. From when you said it on the video, I was like, "Oh, that's exactly what I typed to you."
Yes, you did.
Okay, all right, go ahead. Sorry.
So blue is the color blue in Magic is real. It's all about spell slinging, and I mean, how would you, if you had to describe the color blue to a non-Magic player, like what would you say?
The blue as an identity cares about knowledge and like illusionary magic, but getting knowledge inside of Magic really just means drawing more cards and also controlling what your opponent does. So countering their spells and drawing more cards.
Yeah. So blue is control Magic.
Yeah.
Is control playing. This is a control play style.
Yeah, normally.
So turn 1, you ever see Basic Island, you're like, oh no, this is...
Right.
If I'm playing green, I mean, they're enemy colors.
Mm-hmm. They are
they're enemy colors for a reason. So it's going to be a rough
Science
game.
Versus nature at that point.
Yeah, it's going to be a rough game. So anyway, as when I was doing the channel, you tell the story. You tell the story, Jim. Because you were the one who had the idea.
Yeah, true. So at the end of Dan's videos, he tends to post out there, what do you guys want to see next on the following videos? I'm like, you know what? Dan, I think you should play a mono blue deck. Dan doesn't like ever play a mono blue deck, especially controlling at all. It's like he pretty much just wants to either play combo or mid range. Tends to be what you go for.
If I play aggro, I'm playing green because I'm a Timmy, basically.
And so I told him, you know what, just build a mono blue control list. And Dan replies to me, all right, so what's the win con? How are we going to win the game? I'm like, what do you mean? They scoop. You just play more counter spells than stuff they can cast or can't cast, at some point. And they're just like, I don't want to keep going with this. I'm done.
So I'm like,
scoop it up.
So I'm like, all right. So I built a counter spell tribal deck. And all the deck was counter spells. Mm-hmm. Counter spells and Shark Typhoon.
Yeah, Shark Typhoon's broken though.
Oh my goodness. I totally forgot how broken of a card Shark Typhoon was.
I was telling some friends of mine to play this in Modern, and he's like, I don't really know. He played 2. He's like, I won every game that I dropped it. He's like, I won every single game. This card is amazing. I'm like, I know. I know it's amazing.
The card was so good. So when he talking about the scooping, right? We went back and watched that video, and every single game in that video, I mean, spoiler alert, I won every game by my opponent scooping.
Over a year old.
I won every game by my opponent scooping. Go watch the video. I will post it here. So it's fun. It's funny, and if you've never watched Magic or played Magic, go watch the video and hopefully you'll learn something about Magic. So Basic Island, the most powerful basic land in all of Magic the Gathering. So that is this week's card of the week. If you've got an idea of a card from any card game that you want to see us talk about or feature on the segment, let us know. So with all these different card games, there's so many different cards that are out there that we can talk about. So we want to talk about cards that have meant something to us or that we've used in a tournament or something in the history of the game or card games in general. So we've got a lot of ideas. So I just thought this would be a perfect segment for our show because we are all about card games. So so that was the first card of the week, the Basic Island. Also, one last thing. Basic lands used to look terrible. They used to look like this gross, honestly. The designs of the card were just
We're talking like the white border cards as a whole, or you saying just the artworks of them?
The card and the artwork.
Okay.
Because now with the full art, the full art lands now are gorgeous and beautiful.
Yeah.
The full art ones are gorgeous. When I first got into it, I saw the unstable lands. Ooh, those were some beautiful lands.
I feel like I'm the only one that doesn't like these unstable full arts.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not a fan.
Huh. I liked them. So, but now they're doing it on all these sets. They're really up in the artwork.
But then again, you're talking to a guy who loves white border lands.